Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to dive right into the unspoken rules, the deep evolutionary causes, and the everyday societal effects of eye contact and staring. It's something we do every single day without a second thought, but honestly, it dictates so much of our lives. Here's our quick roadmap for today. 1. The biology of staring. 2. The monkey face experiment. 3. Cultural rules of eye contact. 4. The elevator awkwardness. And 5. The watching eye effect. Let's get right into it. Starting with Section 1, the biology of staring. To really wrap our heads around our innate urge to look at each other, picture this. You're standing in line at the grocery store, just minding your own business, right? You look up and a baby in the cart in front of you is just locking eyes with you, dead still, intense focus. And you're probably thinking, am I doing something weird? Do I have spinach in my teeth? Well, actually, something way deeper is happening in that developing brain. That baby isn't just looking at you. They are literally reading you. It's a perfect example of what researchers call the stare in the crowd effect. See, Darwin and a bunch of psychologists after him figured out that our brains are biologically hardwired to prioritize faces over literally everything else. Think about it. Human babies are born essentially helpless, so their absolute most vital job is to figure out who can keep them alive. Making eye contact? It's a crucial evolutionary tool for pure survival. So what exactly is that baby looking for? Well, in under 10 seconds, that staring infant is actually running a rapid threat assessment. They're scanning your face for tiny microexpressions that even we adults completely miss most of the time. They're checking for tension in your jaw, maybe a slight lift at the corner of your eye, or even totally imperceptible changes in your skin color. They are deciding in real time if you belong in their circle of safety or if you're a potential threat. Pretty wild, right? Which brings us to Section 2. The monkey face experiment. Now, to see just how incredibly flexible this face detection software is, let's look at a study that completely blew the minds of the scientific community. Researchers showed 6-month-old babies a series of monkey faces, and the babies could easily tell the individual monkeys apart. But when they ran the exact same test on human adults, the adults totally failed. In an unbelievable twist of biology, a 6-month-old completely outperforms a fully grown adult at telling non-human faces apart. Their face detection system is just that wide open. But here's the catch. When they tested those exact same babies just 3 months later, at 9 months old, the ability was totally gone. It's due to a phenomenon called perceptual narrowing. Basically, the brain literally reshapes its own neural pathways based on what the baby sees every single day. It beefs up the circuits for human faces because, obviously, they're vital, and it just prunes away the unused ones for monkey faces. It's a classic case of use it or lose it, with the brain specializing entirely based on everyday experience. Moving on to Section 3, cultural rules of eye contact. As we grow up, society steps in and starts heavily regulating this biological urge we have to stare. And the rules? They vary wildly depending on where you are. In Western places like the US and Europe, locking eyes is usually a sign of confidence and honesty. If you look away, people might think you're shy or just not paying attention. But travel to East Asian, Latino, or many Caribbean cultures, and holding a steady gaze with an elder or a boss is actually seen as pretty disrespectful. Lowering your eyes is how you show respect. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, prolonged eye contact between people of the same sex shows deep honesty, while avoiding it across different sexes is all about adhering to religious modesty. It's just fascinating how one biological instinct gets molded in so many different ways by human culture. Section 4. The elevator awkwardness. So, our adult fear of uninvited eye contact is put to the absolute ultimate test in one very specific place: the modern elevator. We all unconsciously perform the exact same little dance when we get in. You step into the box, immediately spin around to face the doors, and then just stare incredibly hard at the floor numbers like they're the most interesting thing in the world. We do this to shrink our physical presence and entirely avoid the awkwardness of eye contact in such a tiny, confined space. The famous sociologist Erving Goffman had a brilliant term for this. He called it civil inattention. It's basically a polite, highly calculated display of disinterestedness. You know the drill. You exchange that one quick fraction of a second glance to acknowledge the other person is there, and then immediately look away. It's a really sophisticated social tool that lets us maintain boundaries and keep strangers as strangers without making them feel totally invisible. Because the elevator forces us into this tiny metal box together, Our biology is actually screaming at us to communicate. So to fight that, we do what's called undoing presence. We deaden our expressions, we go completely silent, and we lock our eyes straight ahead. We practically try to vanish into thin air. Honestly, it takes a comical amount of collective social energy to pretend we aren't standing 3 inches away from each other.
Finally, Section 5, the watching eye effect. Okay, so we've talked about the drive to look and the intense drive to look away. But what happens when we simply feel like we're being watched? Well, psychological studies have found some pretty incredible things. When researchers just taped up simple printed posters of eyes in public spaces, human behavior totally shifted. Bicycle thefts plummeted. People suddenly stopped littering at bus stops and actually cleaned up their trays in cafeterias. And in one super famous office experiment, people were way more likely to voluntarily pay full price for their drinks in an unmonitored coffee tin. Just the depiction of eyes forces us to follow social norms and act more honestly. And you want to know the most astonishing number behind all of this? 0. That is the exact number of actual, real people required to trigger this massive shift in behavior. You don't need a security guard. You don't need a camera. Just a piece of paper with eyes on it is enough to hack into our deep-seated psychology, simulate peer pressure, and instantly keep us in line. So, what's the bottom line for this explainer? Whether it's an infant's raw survival instinct searching for a safe face in a grocery store, or an adult suddenly deciding to be totally honest at an unmonitored coffee cart just because a poster is looking at them, our actions are profoundly, deeply bound to the human gaze. I want to leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. If just a printed photograph of eyes can instantly make you more honest, how much of your so-called independent behavior is really just an unconscious performance for the crowd? Definitely something to think about the next time you lock eyes with a curious baby or find yourself intensely studying the floor numbers in an elevator.